Our first guest tonight is the most decorated former BYU football player to ever suit up in the Canadian Football League, former Ricks College and BYU star, BYU from 1995 to 1997. He played 13 seasons for Montreal, won 3 Grey Cups. In 2014, he was inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame. A pleasure to welcome the great Ben Cahoon to the Wise Guys. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you guys.
We're glad you're here.
We're not just glad to have him here because he's a great player, though, because Ben's one of our guys. So we love Ben. He's a good friend of ours, and we're so glad to have him here.
Listen, when you stepped onto the Canadian football field for the first time, what did you think? I mean, it's complete. It seems like it's completely different from our football fields.
Yeah, the game itself is similar. Once you get lined up, you know, you're just trying to beat the guy in front of you. But the field is bigger, it's wider, it's longer. There's a 55-yard line. That does not.
It doesn't seem right.
You played your whole life. You played at Mountain View High School and BYU, and then you go up there and there's a 55-yard line.
Yeah, that'll throw you off.
And how much? And it's quite a bit wider, right?
Yeah, it is. I think it's 10 or 11 yards wider. The outside receiver is so far away from, and that's where I started my career, is the outside receiver.
You're a mile away from the quarterback.
You're so far away from the quarterback that you don't get a lot of action, actually.
Unless inside breaking routes, right? Or,
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so it's still 100 yards in length?
It's actually 110.
Or 110 because of the 50-yard.
Yeah.
And then the goalposts are they're not in the back of the end zone. They're right there in the front, right?
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
picking game's a
I'm
bigger
hoping
part of
it catches on down here.
How come they still do that?
So,
it seems like it's a hazard. Isn't that why the NFL and everybody moved them out of the field of play? And then the Canadian League is sitting right there in the middle. Did you ever run into the goalposts?
I did not, but I ran plenty of guys into them.
I used it as a pick.
We were watching the Grey Cup this weekend, and I'm sure that's the timing of my being on your show.
Right on.
You know, lines up with that. Thank you. But I was asked that question. I don't know the reason why they're up there, but the end zones are 20 yards deep, and it allows for a lot of kick return, missed field goal returns out of the end zone. It's pretty exciting.
Is that why they do it?
Well,
yeah.
and here's the other thing that's interesting. And I went up and worked out for the. I worked out for Calgary and I worked out for Toronto. I ended up signing the USFL. I should have gone up there to go up and play up there, but signed in the USFL, and then that league folded, and that just caused me all kinds of problems. But when I was up there working out and we were working with full receiver groups, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that the receivers could be running full speed toward the line of scrimmage, multiple in motion at the same time. How does that work?
Yeah, we were doing the three-man weave behind the line of scrimmage before the snap. It's awesome.
And when you have a deeper end zone, we always talk about throwing teams. So these air raid teams in college football, Mike Leach type offenses, is they get down. When you almost don't want to have a first and goal at the 8. Because the end zone's only 10 yards deep, and so the defenders can just sit because nobody's going to run by them. And it's really easy to defend that 10 yards. So teams that don't run it really well down there have a harder time. The windows are really smaller. Having a 20-yard end zone makes it easier to throw the football down on the goal line, right?
Yeah, all your routes are in play. When you're even on the 1-yard line, you can still run fades. You can still run posts and post corners and so forth. So it opens things up a lot.
So you go up there, and when you're fast and you're really good, and then you look at the field, which now favors someone fast and really good, and you look at somebody trying to defend you over this giant piece of real estate, and you're thinking to yourself, there's no way this guy's guarding me. I can do too many moves over here.
Well, you're generous to call me fast. I was always more quick than
Shifty?
fast, but shifty probably is accurate. But the motion played, was a real advantage for me because I could start running a route 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage and start setting a guy up. And that was always one of my skills, was just kind of manipulating a defensive back. And in the CFL, I had more time to do that.
Now, we should point out, we'll talk in a moment, no one caught more passes than Ben Cahoon, except for one guy who's caught 2 more since you retired in the history of the league.
When you left the league, you were the all-time leading receiver in CFL history, right?
Yeah.
And then, so this guy, who we don't like at all.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I know he has a terrible family.
I don't remember. It's G-Roy Simon.
So G-Roy Simon, who is not the player that Ben is, did he play longer than you in the league?
He did.
See, that's not right. He played 2 years longer to get 2 more passes. So here's the question. would your former team let you come back just for one game and throw you 3 screens so that you could get the record back? Would they let you if you called and said, hey,
Montreal,
let's do a big promotion. I'm going to come back. I will suit up. Let's just throw me 3 screens. I won't get hurt, and I'll own the record again. Would they do that?
I think they would. It might not be wise.
They worship you up there.
It might not be wise, but
you think they would do it?
Would your wife?
Oh my gosh! I will call them right now.
You got 1,017.
You tell me who to call. I will call. We will make this.
You got 1,017 receptions. So you'd need to get to 1,020.
Yeah, just get 1,020.
Would Kim let you do that?
oh, she'd be ecstatic. Yeah.
She would
Absolutely.
do it?
So we've cleared 2 of the biggest hurdles. The team says yes, and your wife says yes.
I think Kim thinks in her mind, if I were to go back and play football, I'd really be cool and manly like I used to be. So that's probably not going to happen.
This is something to think about, because usually it's the wife that says, absolutely not. Those days are over.
And
the organization's like, we're not doing that.
We got a chance.
We got a chance.
They could do this. I think we need to make some phone calls. It's Montreal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we can make some calls and see if we can work. I will be your agent, and we're going to get you that record back.
I think we could do that.
Here's the thing I want to make very clear, too. So we've already established, so Dave with Diane, Brenda with me, anybody that sees us together with our spouses, they're like, okay, you guys are tricky. You're resourceful. You know how to trick people. You can sell all of this. If you see Ben with Kim, you will recognize that he also way outkicked his coverage.
I've seen pictures. I think you're right.
Beyond the shadow of a doubt, he way outkicked his coverage.
Absolutely.
But that's somehow we figured out how to do that. Do you think it's the whole Manly I played football thing that allowed us to do
I don't know. I didn't play football.
But he was a big TV star from an early age.
I was that back in the day.
So Kim is great, by the way. I know that Ben would agree with that.
We got a lot
She's
of
a
problems.
football fan.
Yes, she is.
We have a lot of problems with your father-in-law. We'll talk about in just a little bit.
Okay.
But Kim, we're all good with. We're visiting with former BYU receiver Ben Cahoon on the Wise Guys. Back-to-back seasons, 2002-2003. Honored as the CFL's most outstanding Canadian award recipient. Nice job. Not everyone gets that. In fact, we don't know anyone else who has won that. Let me ask you this. What is the talent difference between the Canadian Football League at its best and the National Football League, which everyone here is so overexposed to?
There's definitely a talent level difference, but it's good football. Most of the guys on the team, they were captains of their university. You know, they played big-time university ball at Ohio State or at Clemson or Florida State. They were all conference. They just didn't make the NFL, or they played in the NFL for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Were kind of salary casualties, so they came up to Canada to keep playing, keep acquiring some game film to get back to the NFL. The guy we talked about, G. Roy Simon, who has the record, he and I were in training camp together at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
And, all the guys up there are good football players. Just, either just got cut, got released, or got injured. They're, trying to get back down south.
And do they all, it's like every college kid wants to go to the show. The Canadian football players, are they all looking for a way back into the NFL, or are they just good?
A lot of them are. I mean, we had a guy, Andre Rison came up there for a year. Jaquez Green, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
He came up there for a little bit.
Was Doug Flutie, who was more my age, but he wasn't up there when you started to play, was he?
Just missed him. He was there the previous year.
So he had come back down after that. Yeah. Okay.
I called a Canadian football game. Remember when Vegas had a team in the CFL?
Yeah.
And we went up there, and we aired some of their games on Channel 8, our station, and so we went up to British Columbia to play a game. It's the only time I've ever been in Canada, and it was just it was fascinating. And then we came home. That was it. It wasn't long. No, I don't think it was in a dome. But it was a cool stadium. They are deeply invested in their football.
This week's Grey Cup wasn't in a dome.
No.
It surprised me. I'm like, this time of year in Canada, not in a dome?
In Saskatchewan.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm like, where's the sled dogs? I felt like, but you know what? It was kind of a cool event.
You see all the news about Buffalo. They had 5 feet of snow, and they had to move the game. I mean, that would not have happened in Canada.
They would have just played.
We would have played.
Yep.
Where would you put the snow? I was looking at those Buffalo pictures. I'm like, it's one thing to clear the field, but then where do you put it? Because everything else is buried in 5 feet of snow, and then the parking lot and the streets. I don't know if they even had a shot. But you're saying the Canadians would have played on.
I have watched them clear the stadium with 3 feet of snow on it, and it's a thing of beauty to see. They have a system.
And the fans, they just embrace it. It's
Right.
like, we're from Saskatchewan. Of course we're going to the game.
Yeah.
This doesn't bother us.
Yeah. We had 55,000 at the game the other day. It was cold.
Yeah.
Here in Provo, but we didn't have any snow or any of that
You
stuff.
just have to embrace it. So that was a pretty good game, this Grey Cup game. And I knew you were coming with this week, and I was like, I haven't watched a Grey Cup game in a while. So I actually watched the game, and I thought it was cool. I mean, it was treated like a Super Bowl. Big time, recording artists with Canadian roots performed in the pregame, and they had flyovers, and like it was. And you played in 3, right?
I played in 8.
Oh, you played
won
in 8.
3.
You won
Won
3.
3, yeah.
So you played in 8. What's that experience like to play in a Grey Cup?
Well, most of the time it's cold, but it is amazing. It's big time. And, that's what you work for 12 months out of the year. And even though the CFL is a small league, the Grey Cup Championship is pretty elusive. And like we were there 8 times and only won 3.
Yeah.
So, but it's as big as it gets down there. And the parties afterwards are crazy.
That's awesome.
It seemed like they tried an American expansion, and then they've all gone back. It seemed like there was a handful of teams down here, Vegas being one of them, and then it seemed like there were a couple in the South. And everyone's still trying to tap into the love of the NFL, whether it's the XFL or
The new
the
USFL is
EuroLeague or
back
USFL.
now.
And then they seem to have retreated back to like, you know what, we're the Canadian Football League.
What's interesting is most of those teams, or most of those cities where there's CFL's teams, now they're NFL teams. Baltimore had a team.
Vegas.
They got it kind of. So I think the NFL kind of pushed them back into
Almost
said,
purposely, we're going to
shoe.
put teams in these markets.
Yeah.
People sometimes will say to me, like, when there's a really bad team in the NFL, and they'll be like, oh, I'm telling you, Clemson this year could beat the Cleveland Browns. And I go, no, they cannot. The worst team in the NFL would kill Clemson or Alabama or this year Georgia. Kill them. And people will say, oh, a really good college team. Couldn't a really good college team compete in the CFL? They couldn't, right? Like a good, like, let's just say Notre Dame goes up there. Notre Dame's a bad example. They're not that great this year. But
Let's say Georgia goes up there.
if Georgia went up to the CFL, how would they compete against a CFL team?
That's tough. It's going to depend on if they play with CFL rules.
Yeah, now let's say this.
CFL
If they played CFL rules, Georgia might be in big trouble, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it'd be a good game. But like I said, every player on the CFL roster is an all-star.
Yeah.
It was all conference.
They played at Georgia and at Clemson and at Alabama and at all those schools.
A lot did. We had Lawrence Phillips was our running back
Right.
for a year or two up there.
From Nebraska.
We had Robert Edwards, who was, NFL Rookie of the Year. So we had some dudes for sure. And every year there were 3 or 4 guys from every roster that went down and got back on NFL rosters.
Cool.
It's good stuff.
Well, you had some cool things happen to you with BYU, first as a player and second as a receivers coach. So the 1996 Cotton Bowl team, 14-1, most wins in school history in a season. Do you think that team could beat Blaine's 1984 national championship team? It's just us 3 talking. What do you think?
I have not thought about that before.
Well, let's think about it.
How was your strength of schedule? Because we ended up playing like 5 or 6.
Yeah, no, you
ranked
guys had a
teams.
better strength of schedule. And here's what people don't understand about the 84 team. We were good on offense. We were always good on offense back in those days, and we were like pioneers in throwing the football. But our defense was lights out. We turned the ball over 6 times against Michigan in the Holiday Bowl and won. And off of that defense, you had Kurt Govea, who played like 15 seasons in the National Football League as a starter, an all-Madden team guy. You had Leon White, who started 9 seasons at the other outside backer, and was a starter in the Super Bowl. You know, Marv Allen and Kerry Whittingham were both NFL-type guys. Marv went to medical school. Kerry played a couple of years in the league. Kyle Morrell was starting with the Minnesota Vikings as a rookie at free safety before he blew his knee out. And so that defense was just stacked with a bunch of NFL guys. And then you had young Sean Knight and young Jason Buck and those guys on that were NFL guys.
Are you ready to counter with your defense?
Our defense was – no, what I'm saying is people just think that old BYU teams are great on offense. The strength of 84 was the defense.
Yeah, and he had nail-biters in 84.
The 83 team, Steve Young's team, they were probably better than us offensively. Jim McMahon's 1980 team, better than us offensively. I think you guys may have been better than us offensively in 96. I think it would be a great battle. You had Omar and Tim and all those guys. Like, who were some of those guys on that D that you played with?
We had a strong defense, but we didn't have, Hall of Fame NFL guys. Like, sounds like you had. But we had Shea Murbrook.
Tackling
Murbrook,
machine.
Brad Martin. We had Omar and Tim.
Two NFL
Eddie
corners,
Sampson.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a Henry Bloomfield.
Big physical dude.
In the middle of the line. So we had some guys.
Yeah, you had some guys on D.
But
you guys were elite on offense.
We had those NFL type guys.
Yeah.
Chad Lewis.
Chad and Tula and you and
ground game quarterback.
Who else did we have at receiver that year? Was that a Kaipo?
McGuire, Kale Louie.
Yeah.
We had Ronnie Jenkins, Brian McKenzie.
Yeah, and Ronnie played in the NFL.
And then on special teams, you had James Dye.
Yeah.
Would James Dye? Does James Dye on special teams? Is that the tiebreaker that shifts? Your team would have beaten his team.
He was a game breaker.
Yeah, he was. I remember.
I think so.
We were up doing an interview with Ronnie Mack before the Utah game, and somebody asked the question like, "Are you gonna punt the ball to James Dye?" And Ronnie Mack's the guy that said, "Are you serious? You punt, you die. Everybody knows that. We're not punting it to him." Like with the other coach before the game just tells you, "No, we're not punting it to him." You know that dude's elite, right? So he was amazing. People ask me about that all the time. I'm like, it would be a really good matchup because it'd be a matchup of strengths. The 96 offense was so elite with talent, and the 84 defense was so elite with talent. That'd be one of those matchups of great strength. That'd be a fun game.
So let's say the final score is 34-31.
Oh,
did your team win?
I think so. We should replicate this
96.
with the
Can we do it on the computer?
The alumni game
in the spring. We should do the 84 against 96.
The problem is Robbie.
My money would be on you guys.
No, hey, that's like, I don't know how many years ago, enough years ago that I was still in decent shape, but we did an alumni game where a bunch of us from BYU played a bunch of guys from the U. Did you play with me in that? I don't think you did.
I don't think so.
It was a big fundraiser for like the Roadhouse or Ronald McDonald House in Salt Lake, and we did it at Highland High School. It was sold out. I did have one secret weapon. Sean Bradley was one of my wide receivers. We brought him in when we got into the red zone. I threw him like an 11-foot high pass, and he just got up on his toes and got it.
Brilliant.
But it was Brian Johnson and a bunch of guys from the Sugar Bowl team, and they were all 15 years younger than us, and it just wasn't fair.
Yeah, I'm going with 96 on that one.
You're going to go 96?
I'm going with 96.
On an alumni game right now, I'm going with 96 too.
Because James Dye, I think he's the difference maker on that.
Who was the kicker on yours?
Do you know, more importantly, who was the backup to James Dye?
You were.
That's right.
Are you saying that he hogged all the opportunities?
No, I'm not, actually. I think he gave me plenty of opportunities.
Oh, he did?
He would break one or two.
Then take it off?
Yeah,
Did he give him a
be
little rest?
like, my hamstrings a little tight.
But here's the thing.
I don't want
Nice.
to screw up the
While
average.
Ben
Good to have good friends.
While Ben may have been the backup to James returning punts, James was the backup to Ben at receiver.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
That is true.
Yeah.
He would come in and rotate in for you once in a while.
Here's another cool moment.
That's one of the best receiving corps ever at BYU, though. Those ones that we just mentioned. But with you, and when I consider tight ends receivers, right? When you take you, KO, Kaipo, Chad, and Atula, are you kidding me?
When you add the tight ends, that becomes a pretty formidable
Boy,
group.
that was why that group went 14-1.
I would challenge any of our people watching to give me a group of receivers better than that group. That's about as good as I can remember. That's a really good group. I mean, we had Glenn Kozlowski, Mark Bellini, who both played in the NFL. And we're great. Adam Haysbert, who was a short-term NFL guy. But Glenn and Mark were in the league for a little while. But I mean, the depth of that, if you take it across the board, that's...
This current group that BYU has great potential to be
because the youngins
down
are
there.
really good right now.
Once Cody Epps, just a freshman. Chase Roberts, a freshman. Then you got Cosper coming back. Keanu Hill's just a sophomore.
This young group is really, really good. And when you had Puka and Gunner both healthy,
which we've never had,
pretty formidable.
Yeah,
formidable group. And Isaac's not healthy either at tight end. He hasn't been all year, but he's coming back next year and he'll be healthy. This is a pretty talented group right now.
So you had a good night against Arizona State back in the day. Still ranked 9th all time at BYU with 219 receiving yards. Could they just not cover you that night?
It was more just scramble drill. Kevin Federick was running for his life and just throwing them up. Honestly, that was it. My daughter, my first child, was born 3 days prior to that game.
Yeah.
So and ASU happened to always be my favorite stadium.
Oh,
it was just
wow.
kind of magical. That turf down there was ridiculous.
It was like
so
real, but it was just like
Sun Devil Stadium.
it was like a golf course
Yeah.
fairway, just trimmed so tight. But that was a special game just for all those reasons, and turned out that the stars were aligned, had a big game.
When you have a 200-yard game, I mean, football's brutal, and you guys that play it, it's just nuts. But when you walk off the field after a 200-yard game, are you just jacked up, or are you doubly exhausted? Because most people just are happy to get 100 yards.
You think about how many yards you have to run in order to get 200 yards
Yeah.
receiving. I mean, that's every game, because a lot of times you're just running a route and you never get the ball. But you're especially exhausted after that.
Man. Hey, as a coach, you tutored Cody Hoffman, and he became the all-time touchdown leader in school history, 33 touchdowns he got in 2012. He got that record catching touchdowns from a number of different quarterbacks. How much of that was your coaching as opposed to Cody's flat-out skill set and size?
100% Cody's skill set.
Now, there had to be some coaching in there, because it's
No.
hard to do.
You work
Very
with
little.
Cody, and he was a fun player to work with because of his work ethic, right? Tell us about your work with Cody and how he was as a player.
Cody was just a freak athlete, and he had amazing ball skills. He never looked like he was running full speed, and that used to drive Bronco crazy because Bronco was an effort guy. He wanted to just see people gritting their teeth and veins popping out of him while he's running. And he was just smooth, and he looked a little lackadaisical, but that was just Cody. So I was always kind of having a battle with Bronco, because Bronco wanted to bench him, and I'm like, Coach, this guy's the best player on the field. I'll try to get him to work harder, but Cody was really working hard all the time. But
He just made it look easy.
He just made it look easy.
Even when he caught that bomb against Georgia Tech, which might be one of the greatest catches that we've seen, and we keep seeing catches where we go, that is the greatest catch we've seen. That one where he was just totally stretched out in the end zone, got the touchdown there, and then we were on the call when he broke the record against Boise State, which was also a tough touchdown. But he made so many difficult catches, kind of like Puka, makes him look easy.
Yeah, exactly. Ball skills, just world-class ball skills.
And he always seemed to be, like, he was such a big guy. And I feel like when Cody was playing, there weren't as many of those. The big 6'3", 210, 15-pound guys that you try to press cover them on the line of scrimmage, and they just kind of throw you aside, and they play through contact. And contact actually is a benefit to them. Guy comes up and tries to be physical with them, and they come off the contact, and they're more open, right? It seems like now there's a bunch of those guys. Are you seeing that too as you watch college football? Is that the trend to go with these big physical dudes? It seems like everybody's got Stanford this week has like 2 6'3" wide receivers.
I think they want that. I think coaches want that. They're looking for that. They can't always get that, but they feel like a big guy gives them an advantage. So it's trendy though. Sometimes you get the little quick, shifty Wes Welker type guys in the slot. They like that, and then the big guys on the outside. But Cody just knew how to use his body. He could have played basketball. He could have played Division I basketball too. He was just a great athlete.
It was fun to see him at the alumni game.
Yes, yeah.
Back in the spring. So all of that leads us to this question, which we promoted on social media today, because now with your experience with Cody makes you an expert here in this field. How good do you think Puka Nacua is? And if you were him, would you go into the NFL this year, or would you wait and go one more year?
Good question. Puka is elite, without a doubt. He's an NFL-type receiver. Whether or not he should leave this year and go to the NFL, I mean, there's a lot of factors, that come into play. So I'm not ready to make that judgment.
What would you do? Because you've been in the professional.
I would get all the information possible,
yeah,
and make a decision based on that information.
Would it hinge on if Jaron Hall comes back and you don't want to break in a new quarterback in the Big 12, or would that matter?
I think it would matter.
Yeah.
I think that would be an important part of that decision.
And there's, back when I played, there was no such thing as NIL money, right? And so that kind of changes things, doesn't it? Because in the past, it's like, man, you have such a small window. If you have a chance to make money, you need to go make it, because you're making nothing here. You're barely surviving. You can't even afford to fly home, right? Now Jaron's from here, but and Puka's from here, which is interesting. They both are right from here in Utah County. But some of these kids back in the old days couldn't even afford to go home for Christmas because they couldn't afford a plane ticket because what they were paid wasn't enough. These guys can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in money. Would that change your decision if you knew that you could come back and have some guaranteed money and get an insurance policy to get to the next year? Would that make any difference?
It would come into play, I think. The biggest thing is injury, right? That's what would, scare somebody from coming back again. Because you get injured, you could screw your whole career. Mm-hmm. So if Puka comes out healthy at the end of this year, gets some information from the NFL as far as his draftability and where he may go in the draft, and let that make the decision. And with the Jaron Hall aspect too, I think that
so it should be an easy decision for him after all that.
No, it's not going to be easy.
It's still going to be hard.
It's never easy, and unless he's just like, this is my goal, and I'm not in school to graduate, and I'm just You
think about, you played 13 years in the CFL. That's 13 years. All these collegiate receivers came out of school wanting to play professional football, and they didn't take your position. That's hundreds and that's thousands of receivers. It is so hard to get in both leagues to get jobs. And this year, you got a bunch of receivers coming out. Everyone currently in the NFL wants to keep their jobs. And I think I'd be scared to death to go, I'm just going in because I think I can without the proof of a team going, hey, we're the Atlanta Falcons, Tyler. We're going to draft you. Might be the 8th round, but if you come out, because he gave up 2 years to come out, you're getting picked, and you're getting picked by us, and we need you to play. But those scenarios seem so rare.
If the NFL comes back and says, Puka, we think you're a late round draft pick, then
that changes.
I'm not
right?
going. I'm not going because nobody is invested in you if you're a 5th round draft pick, and you got to beat out a veteran. And then you're at the mercy of whoever drafts you and whoever you're competing against, because you're not going to get a shot. You've got to go in and beat somebody
You'd
out.
almost be better as a free agent rather than be a late 5th rounder, because you could pick a team that has fewer receivers.
Right. But if you're going to be a 2nd or 3rd round
and you just
projection,
see, Tyler got the information.
2 or 3 years if you're a 3rd round.
Yeah, Tyler got information from multiple teams that if you're around a 3rd round, we're taking you. And so I think he made a pretty educated guess. And
he still didn't even go to the later.
Right.
But the Falcons were hot on it.
And the Falcons had told him, we'll draft you in the 3rd round, and we're bringing you in with the idea you're going to play. And so if you get that information, then you can go, oh, okay, if that makes sense.
And the same thing
go.
for the quarterback, too. If you're not going to get picked with some investment, then you should come back. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Well, that comes into play. I mean, I think Jacob Conover is a sweet football player.
Yeah.
I recruited him, and he is the real deal. He's going to be exciting and fun to watch. And he's not necessarily as mobile as Jaron Hall. So that comes into play as well. He's going to sit in the pocket. He's going to give you some time to get open, and he's going to throw the ball a little bit more instead of just ready.
So even if Jaron does go, you're saying they're still going to throw for a lot of yards on people, and Puka still can be featured, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's going to be the man.
Yeah.
How about these other guys? Keanu Hill, Chase Roberts, Cody Epps, Braden Cosper. It's a full stable. Even if Puka doesn't come back, as this group goes into the Big 12. And there's the other American Fork kid who's redshirting this year.
Just got back from Michigan.
Between he and Chase Roberts, I think they had 100 touchdowns over there at AF.
Yeah.
What about this group?
How you feeling about the group that's coming up and coming?
I recruited Chase Roberts. He's my guy. He's a baller.
Yeah.
I think he's more of a slot inside receiver. But they're fun to watch. Hill has been so fun to watch. And people have known about him. That's been the buzz even before this year. But I think he's really proven himself.
Their attitudes are great. I've had a chance to interview both of them. And Chase, that touchdown he got, he didn't break stride in that bomb that he got Saturday.
I was teasing the guys on the show today. I was like, that throw was so good. I think Chase didn't even need to look for the ball. If he would have just kept running and just put his hands out like this, the ball actually would have dropped right into his hands without looking at it. That's how good that throw was.
He showed good speed on it, too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was nice.
A couple more questions for Ben Cahoon, outstanding MVP Hall of Famer from the Canadian Football League, and couldn't be defended when he was at BYU as well.
Here's the thing about Ben that I remember when I was covering you. Ben talks about being able to move and be in motion and how he could set up defensive backs. But But Ben, when teams tried to press Ben and get up in his face, they always failed. Because Ben understood how to get off the line of scrimmage, and he's not a big guy. And so sometimes it doesn't matter if you're a big guy or a little guy. You got to understand the footwork and the handwork that it takes to get off of press coverage. What made you so special and have the ability to do that when you were not a giant guy like Cody Hoffman?
I don't know, honestly. I just think that it was a mentality. My first experience, I went to Ricks College, walked on at Ricks College. I went up there my very first practice. I got pressed at the line of scrimmage by a grown man. I was just a incoming freshman, 18-year-old, and I got clamped on, marched up a hill, and thrown into a chain link fence, and then talked to in not so nice terms about welcome to college football. So that was my welcome, and I learned real quick that I got to figure out a way to
not let these guys get their hands on me.
Exactly. Right? So it was just a little bit more quicks and just.
And in high school, no one could get their hands on you anyway. You were like Puka, and you get the ball, no one could tackle you. You run for touchdowns, but you got the message sent to you at Ricks. By the time you came down here, you had it figured out.
Yeah, it was just hand-to-hand combat, and the mentality then was, if you press me, you're going to get burned. Like I loved people to step up because I wasn't the fastest guy, but I was quick. So I could get them off the line and get some separation that way. And if I got somebody on my hip, then I knew how to break off a route and stick my foot in the ground and come out of a break and get separation.
That team that you were on, we talked about that whole receiving group. And some of the teams I was on, I remember when I was a freshman and Jim McMahon was our starter, coming off of a year where he broke 76 NCAA records, right? We'd watch a team on film, and Jim would go, "Oh, I hope they try to press us. Like, I hope they blitz us. If they blitz us, we will kill them. Like, I will throw 7 touchdown passes." It was almost like, "Oh, yeah, bring it." And that 96 team had that mentality like, "Oh, Steve Sarkisian and you guys, oh, please come up and press cover us." In recent years, I feel like BYU, that's kind of been the MO. Let's play too deep, man. Let's put guys in their faces. Let's get our hands on the receivers. Let's cause them problems. Doesn't work so well a bit against Puka, but is this mostly a mentality that allows you to say, hey, if you're going to blitz us, you're going to pay? Utah's notorious for just getting in people's faces and trying to manhandle them physically. How do you overcome that as a team?
It is a mentality. It is a confidence, but it's also coaching. And the coaches have a responsibility to put players in position to help them succeed. And if that means getting into bunch formations or motioning or, having angle releases, so the coaches can do a lot to help. If a team, and Utah does it every year, they think they can manhandle us at the line of scrimmage, and they're fairly successful at it. But you have to scheme that, and you can do a lot, with formations and with motions to help you guys out.
And once you make them pay a few times early in the game, then they do back off.
Exactly.
Right? They do back off.
Ben Cahoon with us on the Wise Guys. Your wife, Kim, the daughter of the former governor of Utah, Gary Herbert, which makes him your father-in-law. A very competitive guy. We golf with him. He's been here on this show. He's had a lot of nice things to say about you, but he also has a lot of nice things to say about his own athletic prowess from back in the day. So in your prime.
I know where this is going.
And in his prime, who wins in a game of basketball?
In our prime?
In your prime.
Yeah, because he tells us he was great basketball.
You got to go back to say.
We can't really check it. There's no film.
We know that he was a stud at Orem High School, and you were at Mountain View years later. In your 2 primes, could you take him?
I think so. Yeah.
See, I knew
That's
Ben
funny,
would
I
have that. I
think he told us he'd take you.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's how that question went.
So today.
Now
you're both old. But you're not quite as old as Gary. But Governor Herbert, I should call him, because he does give me governor's pardon.
Yeah, we call him governor all the time. We're not messing with that.
And I checked on the rules. I'm like, Gary, can you actually give me a governor's pardon because you're not the governor anymore? And he's like, Blaine, the governor's pardon extends way beyond your term.
Our biggest disappointment.
I appreciate that.
Despite taxes, because we don't like paying taxes, our other biggest disappointment with him not running for another term was the highway patrol would no longer look for our golf balls after we hit them.
He'd have all these people, security people, and you'd hit it in the woods, and they'd be like, "It's right here, Blaine." I was like, "I love it."
Fantastic.
That's the best
We'd
part
buy
of
him hot
golfing.
dogs. They'd find our Titleist.
The best part of golfing with him was
Is security detail to find the ball for you.
Yep.
Which I
Okay,
love.
so here comes the bigger question.
So right now, And no dunking allowed or crazy jump shots and stuff. No crazy like double pump, rock the cradle stuff. Who wins in a game of horse?
Horse?
Yeah.
Gary.
He's
That fast,
creative,
huh?
right?
He's a good shooter.
He is a good
Yeah,
shooter.
he is. I know.
So you take him in the prime, but here in 2020, in a game of horse, he would take you.
And not many people
so.
know. We talked about it when he was on the show. Our former governor, Gary Herbert, was a phenomenal athlete back in the day, multi-sport athlete back in the day. So
When he's not hitting the golf ball straight, however, that's a frustrated Governor Gary Herbert.
he's very competitive on the golf course.
I've not seen that. I've not seen him not hit it straight.
Really?
He's usually just right down
Trust
the
me,
middle.
he can hit it as sideways as any of us.
Yeah, and it seems like no matter, like, because we let him keep score because it's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like no matter.
by the
what,
way, he's loose with
like,
his
I'm like,
scores.
hey, what did you shoot today? And I'd be like, 76. What did you shoot? Oh, 75. Like, I'm like, what?
It's funny, hit wait for our scores, and then he'd announce his score.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
But now he's not running for office, so he's free with some of that stuff. All right, before we do 5 questions and get you out of here, Big 12 schedule comes out December 1st. Who would you like to see the Cougars open with at home September 23rd next fall?
Oklahoma.
See?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
on
talking
that.
about.
I kind of like Texas because we have a history with them, but
Yeah, Steve Sarkisian at Texas. That'd be fun.
yeah. So you'd love to see the Sooners in.
I want the Sooners this year at home, and I want Texas on the road. I want to play them both these first 2 years because that's the only opportunity because they're going to the SEC. So I want Oklahoma at home this year, Texas on the road, and then I want Texas on the at home the following year, and Oklahoma. I want them on both, but I don't know that we're going to be so lucky to get that. So
It'll be something just to see the Big 12 stamp down on the field.
yeah, it'd be cool.
Maybe they should do that for the alumni game.
I think so. They're in the
I
Big
think
12
it's
by
a
the
great
time that we'll
idea.
have the schedule. It should be on the field for the alumni game.
All right, you ready for 5 questions?
Yeah, you ready?
You ready?
These are rapid fire. Favorite sports movie?
Rudy.
Nice. I like that too.
That's a good one.
My favorite is Remember the Titans, but I like Rudy. That's my number 2. Favorite singer or band?
Ooh. It's pass.
No, there's
Come
no
back to it.
passing.
We'll come back to it. We're coming back to it.
We'll swing it back around.
After the 4th question, we'll go back before the 5th question.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Cinnamon checks.
Cinnamon Checks.
Hey, at least it's got sugar on it. Like people come in here and talk like Cheerios. We're like, please tell me you put like 6 teaspoons of sugar on that
Cinnamon
stinky
Checks.
stuff. So, okay. Your favorite BYU moment?
First catch at BYU. Texas A&M.
Was it like
Big
1,000
Skin
degrees
Classic.
that day?
I don't remember the temperature.
I know it was in August.
It was in Lavelle Edwards though.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great game. And we were a big underdog. You guys pumped them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty fun.
Favorite Canadian cuisine?
Well, I've never had poutine. That is the Quebec.
I don't even know what
What
that
is
is.
it?
That's French fries with gravy and cheese curds. It's famous.
You lost me on the curds,
Yeah,
but
no,
Yeah, as
that's
soon as
why
you
I
said
never had it.
curds,
I
that's
never
not
tried
good.
it.
okay. So
Was
what
there
is
something
it?
that you actually liked up there though?
Tim Hortons Donuts. Just
Tim
world
Horton
class.
Donuts, and that's Canadian.
Yeah,
ba-
it's a Canadian.
Okay,
Tim
so
Hortons
now we
Donuts.
got to come back to your favorite singer or band.
I can't even think right now.
Dave
what that-
made me sing a Journey song on the air
I
last week.
love Journey.
Yeah, during
I
game
do.
day.
I don't know.
Come on, you gotta have to have a
I'm thinking
favorite.
about Grey Cup halftime. We had Shania Twain up there.
Ooh,
That was
I would
good.
go- I-
I
yeah.
like Shania. My wife's been on a little Shania kick lately.
Yeah, and she back
maybe-
out. I
Yeah,
heard
she's back out on tour.
I'd go see Shania right now.
Yeah.
she's awesome.
You going with Shania?
I guess so.
I like
It's
that.
kind of brain freeze right
not
there.
the-
So
Shania Twain's all
It's not
good.
the most strongest endorsement we've
no,
heard, but
sorry about that.
I'm gonna have to try some Tim Horton donuts though.
You gotta
where do
go
you got to go to get those?
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan?
Good luck.
You can't get
When's
them
your
in
next
BC.
trip?
You can't
Yeah,
get
no,
them
you
in
can get them
BC?
anywhere.
Oh, you can get them in
Anywhere.
BC. So next
Every
time I'm in
corner-
BC, I'm gonna do that.
But not in
every
America.
corner of every street in Canada.
Next time I'm up in Vancouver, I'm
Tim
gonna get
Hortons
some.
Donuts?
Maybe Montana. Maybe up close to the
Do you know
border.
when you're driving up to British Columbia, up to Vancouver, the last town you cross in Washington before you go across the border in Canada is Blaine, Washington. Spelled Blaine, just like me. Yeah, it's my town.
Yeah,
I tell the kids that's my town. So
it's nice.
Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure,
Ben
guys.
Cahoon.
greatest receiver and one of BYU's all-time greats, but
The
the
greatest
greatest receiver in CFL history on with us
hey.
tonight. We're pumped to have had
Listen,
you.
I got it. He brought
Yeah.
a couple of shirts for us, so
Yeah.
I'm going to show them right here while you explain what you're up to. Besides, now that you're not
Yeah,
catching
people
football
want
in
to
the
know what
CFL.
you're doing these days, so let's fill them in.
Hey, I'm doing retail sales for G2G Protein Bar. It's a fresh refrigerated protein bar. We make them in Orem. Been in business about 12 years. It's phenomenal. Grab them at Costco, Maverick, Holiday.
So we have them, and you gave me some because Brenda's on. She's onto them because she says they're way healthier than the other stuff I was eating. But here's something that you just told me when we were talking the other day at lunch. That I was like, oh, the only thing I don't like about them is I can't take them on the road with me because they got to be in the fridge. And you said, no, Blaine, like they're refrigerated, but they have enough shelf life when they're not refrigerated. You can stick them in your bag and take them on the road with you, right?
Yeah. They're good for 8 months when you keep them cold, but they're also good for 30 days outside the fridge on the go.
So take them on the road with you. Now I can put them in my backpack and take them on the road when we're on the road doing stuff. And I did not know that until we went to lunch with Ben the other day.
Hey, we appreciate how you represent BYU and the Canadian Football League and Mountain View High School, even from an Orem Tiger.
Yep. Local guy makes great. We love it.
First class. Thanks for coming.
Thanks Ben.
So much, guys.
We appreciate having you, brother.
Appreciate it,
man.
Tell the governor we'll play, but we're not playing until the 65 again, so we'll probably see him in March.
Yeah.
March or April.
You should need to come play golf with us. We'll have that to be our first.
All I'm waiting for is an invitation.
All right, you got it.
Yeah, you got the invitation right here.
Okay.
And your father-in-law will pick up the check. That's also confirmed right here.
Yeah, he told us he would.